Tonight I've chosen, as I have in the past couple of weeks, to invite some young people, young men who are visiting the monastery, to engage in the sort of interviewing process with these random questions that were made for us by a young lady named Ioana. That we put them down and we cut them up and we made them in a little basket here. And last time with, I think last time was with Nicholas, and the previous time was with Theophilos. Tonight we have Samuel and his brother Joseph, or Joseph and his brother Samuel. Joseph's the elder, Samuel's the younger, to join us, and maybe we'll do a little bit of conversation and dialogue based on some of the questions that Ioana has prepared for us. All right, without further ado, we'll hand the mic over to Samuel to pick the first question.
If you could go back and talk with your high school / college self, what piece of advice would you give him? What life lesson or advice do you have for our age group?
That's a very, very beautiful question. I think I would, if I could go back, I would like to have concentrated more on reading lives of saints. If I had known more about different saints' lives, I think I would have had a better idea about how to live out my life. I would have had better examples. As it were, I didn't start reading the lives of the saints really in a more in-depth manner until much later, in my late 20s, when I became more serious about the decision between becoming a monk or marrying. I was sort of more urgent about wanting to know how to live life. That's one thing I would have done more. And I also think I would have participated more in the real spiritual life of the Church, that is, in particular, the sacraments of Holy Confession and Holy Communion. I did to a certain degree, but I think I would have taken more advantage when I was younger. I should have taken more advantage of those two great sacraments of the Church, to receive Christ's body and blood, and to do so in a prepared and a guided manner under the sponsorship and the guidance of a spiritual father more regularly.
That is a great question.
That's a great question.
And I'm not even that far away from high school.
Keep it close.
I'm not even that far away from high school, so gosh, a lot of stuff I would probably do pretty differently. Probably focus a little more. That's always a good idea. Probably not to smoke.
Reading the lives of the saints. I do some reading, but not as much as I should. I think that would help me learn lessons without having to go through the trouble of experiencing them myself. How do you explain monasticism to someone who hasn't been exposed to it?
I think monasticism, as it comes to me this moment anyway, is the privilege one has to know themselves well. The peaceful, prayerful, and regimented lifestyle of prayer, of reading, of studying, of welcoming others, when that's done in a balanced manner, one has the privilege to learn a lot about himself, and thereby able, once we can learn about ourselves, and as I've studied and learned throughout my life and from the fathers of the Church, then one is better able to know God.
What is the importance of having a spiritual father?
You know, you might think, wouldn't it be great to have as a coach, for if you're a basketball player, Michael Jordan? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Yeah, he could teach you a lot because he's experienced, he knows, he's studied the game, he's played the game years and years and years and years. So that'd be a great teacher. Similarly, in the spiritual life, and perhaps much, much more importantly, when one is learning to be in close contact with God, it would behoove that person to want to find a teacher, a guide. And so this is what a spiritual father is, really. And then in that, the spiritual father is the one that you can reveal yourself to, so that he can help you fine-tune the gifts that you've been given, and also help you to shed the weaknesses that you have. And then the more we reveal ourselves, our thoughts, our innermost churnings, the things we do, the things we say, the inclinations we have, and so forth, the more we reveal ourselves to a spiritual father, or like the trainer or the teacher, then he, the trainer, knows how to help you strengthen certain gifts that you have and to curb some of the weaknesses that you may have. It's very simple and fundamental. Can you imagine spending 20 years or 10 years from the year you turn 20 to 30 without any guidance, just winging it on your own, reading a few books and having a few experiences and thinking of a few things to do? But the difference that might be had if you were to attach yourself to someone that you trust or respect and that you could bounce things off of. That I'm thinking of doing this, I was going to do that, and I had this experience, and why did this happen to me, and I suffered this, and I didn't do that. Then you would have that objective other person that you respect and love to help guide you through that. And then your progress, I would think, certainly would be much more, but live and learn.
What are some ways we can become more humble and learn humility in our daily life?
Certainly, you fellows might understand, and those who are watching too, that a person, even to ask that question, shows a great level of humility. Just to ask the question. It's probably one of the most basic questions that one could ask of themselves in this life. How can we be humble? I know that in the spiritual sojourn, one can learn humility by subjecting themselves to being obedient to the guidance of a spiritual father from that previous question. Instead of always wanting to do what I want to do what I'm asked to do, or what's expected of me. That helps us. And not just in the spiritual life as a monastery might be, or monastic life, but don't children strive, or parents want their children to be obedient so they can make more progress? And to wash the dishes, or sweep the floor, do your homework, or hurry up, we're all going out to a gathering, or what have you. Humility comes from not doing our own will, but subjecting ourselves to do the will of another. Of course, that other should be someone that we love and respect, like in spiritual fatherhood. The opposite of humility, of course, is pride. And the scriptures tell us, Christ himself tells us that he casts away the prideful, but lifts up those who are humble. He himself, as the very first example of his majesty, his glory, was that he was obedient to the Father, even until death. In other words, Christ, the second person of the Holy Trinity, accepted the Father's command that he would become a human being, born of our Panagia, the Virgin, and ultimately suffer crucifixion for the sins of all mankind. Well, that humility of Christ, our Savior, is the first example that we should all have of wanting to be self-sacrificial. Instead of just always doing what I want to do and go the places I want to go and have the experiences that I'd like to have, to put myself in the second seat and to do the will of others. That is, to self-sacrifice, to help others, to go out of my way to visit someone, to take out of my time that I was going to study or do something else to call someone or to write a letter to someone of encouragement who needed it. There's so many things we could talk about, but those are a couple of thoughts that I have on humility. And then reading the lives of the saints from the first question that we had is a good way to see what humility looks like.